All righty. So, welcome everyone who is watching this. I'm very excited to have my friend Mike Schoenberger on with us today. And one of our mutual friends introduced us because she realized that we had a lot in common. Me being a love mentor and, all about love and connection. My business is Living from Heart Center. And Mike Schoenberger is all about leading with radical love. So let me just tell you a little bit about Mike and uh, and definitely a little bit about my experience of having lunch with Mike because it actually blew me away. It was just such a beautiful, heart-centered connection, unexpected, because I had this whole idea of, Mike being the CEO of one of Sunco, actually, the founder and the CEO of Sunco, which is one of Canada's leading communications and installation companies, businesses. So he helps business communication, helps businesses communicate more effectively, and it's like what is it, over 20 million in annual revenue. So I had kind of this idea of, the CEO, the founder, that you'd be a little more heady. I mean, I knew that that our friend Colette introduced us for a reason, because you are leading in a whole new way, which was what really blew me away, was how much you are operating in this new paradigm that is led by love, by heart centered connection, everything that I stand for. And I haven't yet fully linked the two, like with really building such a super successful business and, leading with radical love. So I'm so curious to find out more about what that looks like for you, how you um, how you came to this, because I know something like this, like leading through radical love, you've had some experiences. You've been through the trenches, I'm sure. And I could tell because I could feel you. I could feel your heart. I could feel when you speak. And you spoke to a different place in me. So I know that you're practicing what you preach. And you really do have some secrets and some keys to connecting more deeply and creating a culture of connection, like a whole new culture in business. So I would love for you to just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your story, like what brought you to today.
Love it. Thanks for the great intro there, Jerry. And I too was blown away with our lunch and very happy that Colette connected us together. And when I think back to my journey, first of all, I'm 55 years old and I've been on this planet for a while, and didn't come to where I am today without by chance. I think it was following my heart and led here, and I'm glad to be here in this moment now. When I started, at a young age, I was 17, and when I first got into business, I graduated high school young. I had no idea what the heck I wanted to do with my life. I've always been kind of an empathetic but really shy person. And my dad out of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and he um, pulled me out of the day after graduating and said, "You're coming to work for me." And so I made $5 an hour and worked side by side by him and learned what it was to be a man, learned what it was to work, learned work ethic, what it was to be compassionate, and learned lots of great things from him. Went to Nate, took telecom, worked side by side by my dad for 15 years until he retired. And my wife and I bought the business Sunco from him, and it was the truck, the materials in it, the contract, and my cousin, now President Sean. And we bought the business for $15,000, and it's kind of neat, this journey through of 25 years of growth and transformation. Um, Taking a little bit of time to tell the story, and then we can dive into further questions. One of the cool things about Sunco is we hired a numerologist when we were trying to figure out, and my dad was a proprietorship and we wanted to incorporate. And so I've always kind of been on the fringe of, the edge of unexplained or unexpected and energy. And the numerologists have done names for IBM and all sorts of big companies. And so we did it on our birth dates and all the key foundational, and they gave us three names. And we picked Sunco Communication Installation Limited. And he goes, it's going to be high growth, and just high energy. And that's what, 25 years in, that's what Sunco has been. We had to incorporate it on a certain day. So I thought that'd be a cool little fun fact to start. And myself, I started by being a technician, a doer, and in the trenches. And I'm a leader that leads by I don't ever ask anything that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. But it gets to a point where you can't do everything yourself, or you try to hold on to too much control. You have to hire people smarter than you. You have to hire people that can do the things because that's the only way to grow. Um, So how did I get connected to my heart? I think is the connection, and understand radical love leadership is probably the connection. There's lots of business stuff and the reason why Sunco has grown and how that all works. But I think that's a foundational question that you want answered, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're like kind of that divine masculine that really does have the balance between the logic and the emotion.
Yeah, and it's a work in progress every day. It's something that you continually work on, where that's my mantra, my goal is I come from my heart with love and light in all that I say and do, and try to get 1% better every day. And so how did I come to this? And, as I mentioned, working side by side with my dad for all of those years, he taught me lots of great things, and we were really close. He retired in 2000. He went down south and he was living his best life and with my mom playing music. And he was he was the most talented man I've ever met when it comes to business and music. He could pick up any instrument and immediately start playing it for me. Or one time I was at a family reunion and there was a band playing and I heard somebody on the drums. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Who's playing the drums? And it's like, oh, it's your dad. And I'm like, I didn't know he could play the drums. So he was a unique human when it came to talents. So he was down south and he was kind of my mentor, and I would call him when I had questions and things for business. And we are a smaller company at the time. There's probably four of us. And then this one day I was out, I was still on the tools. I'll never forget. It was probably minus 35, a cold winter day. I was at McCoy Brothers in Edmonton, the second floor, just about to go into the telephone room to fix some telephone related issues, when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I felt this intense pain in my chest and nausea that literally knocked me to the floor. And I sat there and I was just breathing through it, not knowing what the heck happened. Am I getting sick? I've never, like, this just came out of the blue. Um, and it lasted for not that long, like a minute, maybe longer. And then all of a sudden it passed, but left me with this uneasy feeling. And so I got up and I finished the job. Luckily, it was my last job of the day, and I drove home. And as I pulled into the garage, I heard the phone ringing. Got out of my truck and I ran into the house and I picked up the phone, and that's when my heart sunk and I knew something was wrong. And it was my aunt. My dad had passed away a half hour earlier of a massive heart attack, and and this was like 22 years ago. So it was the defining, but I didn't realize the impact of that. So I know that I felt my dad's death from a distance, um, at the moment of his passing, because we were so close and this connection. But I stuffed that emotion and the feelings in a box. And like most men do, I threw myself into work, into my family, and had some challenges, but there was always this hole. And life gives you experience and curiosity. So one of the things, I've always been a curious human and I've loved to learn. And I joined the EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, where um, attended business events, and leadership and entrepreneurialism is as much us as a leader and as a human as it is running our business, because as humans are running the business, and the better human you are, the better business you run. And EO is all about that. So I was at a leadership summit in Banff, Alberta, and it was my dad died on February 18th, 2022, and this was February 19th, 2021. Just kind of mid-COVID, there was a break, and April to have an event, or maybe it was 2022, but it was February 19th, 19 years and a day after my dad's death. And I found myself in front of this meeting room with these double doors. And it was, EO, and I walk in and there's like 35 entrepreneurs all sitting on the floor on blankets and these two great big TV screens, not similar to on Zoom. And there was this Australian guy from a guy from Australian, and we're going to do Wim Hof breathing. And he walks us through this Wim Hof breathing exercise. What we're going to do, an hour of continuous breath. You're going to get weird feelings, and your mouth's going to get dry, and all these things. And I just, I've had this thing where I just say yes, and I'm like, you get the most out of something if you put your all into it and don't be afraid and lean into the fear, essentially.
Mm.
And I did, and I went through this experience, and I'm not sure how long. It was after some time. Everything was tight, and I'm breathing, and my body just seems to be locking up, and I'm emotional, and I'm crying, and feeling all these things, when all of a sudden I had this voice in my head, and it was like, you are worthy. You're enough. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone, and I love you. And it was like, that opened up my heart. And it was that box where I stuffed away all that emotion, um, finally opened. And from that moment forward, I've been on a quest to connect in with my heart and myself. And there's a whole bunch of other things on my journey, but that's what started it off, and really was this, led me to this radical love. And all of the things in the last couple of years, 3 years, led me to the point that we all need to connect more within ourselves. And if we all unlock our own radical love and connection to our heart and ourself, it's it's super powerful what can be done. But that's the how of how I got to this point.
Mm.
Or started
So
on my
powerful.
journey anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And breath work also has been incredibly powerful in my life too, to just really connect me with parts of myself that I didn't know I'd abandoned. And some of those core truths, those messages that you received, that you're worthy, that you're enough, right? That you're lovable. Like we all need to hear that. And in that kind of an open space where we're actually fully available, when we're so present, it's palpable. Like everything's just changed, things let go. So I can, yeah, I can totally relate to that. And your dad died on my birthday, which I think is interesting.
Mhm. Mhm.
And close to around the same time my dad died. My dad died in 2001.
Mhm. Yeah, it's nothing's really by accident, really. I don't think so.
No, no. Yeah, so amazing that you had that heart opening experience and just stayed curious. And I love your philosophy of just leaning in, leaning into life and leaning into your fear. Like that's
Yeah, anytime you do that, it's what holds it back. And the light will never hurt. The fear holds us back, right? And so it's you lead in with love, and it's never steered me wrong.
mm, yeah. Well, I do believe that we can't really meet another to a level that we can't haven't met ourselves. And so I knew that there's a story about you meeting yourself and meeting those parts of yourself in order for you to be able to connect on the level that you're able to. And so tell me a little bit more about building a culture of connection in business. Like,
Yeah,
what are
yeah.
the
So
steps? What does that look like?
yeah, so it's interesting how the universe leads us sometimes, or luck, or experience. We had already started down the path of putting in an operating system for your business called EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's based on a book of traction called Gino Wickman, and the core foundational principle of it is, 7 key questions. What's your vision? Who are you? What's your values? What's your purpose as an organization? Who do you serve? What's your, your 90-day plan, your 1 year plan, your 3 year plan, and your 10 year plan? And you answer these questions. It gives a series of systems and processes to run your business. And we started that in 2017. And that gave us some of the tools, the foundational tools. So we're a values-based organization, which is heart-centered in its core. When we look, you ask any member, we have 68 staff now, and you ask anyone, and all of them will know our values. We bring out the best in each other. We embrace change. We do what it takes. We do the right thing. We're accountable to the outcome. So it should roll off their tongue. And, who are we as a company? We're a company that really strives to make business communications easier for our clients by being their trusted systems integrator.
Mm.
And and we know that we're not perfect, but we commit to delivering quality. We have knowledge and experience, and we commit to the personal touch. That's what makes us unique. And so by having EOS, it created the foundational principles for us. And then so I just had to lead it and add some heart-centered things to it. And it started quite by accident, which pretty much everything in life for me seems to happen by accident. Maybe.
There are no
Maybe it's
accidents,
universe.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe the universe leading me, and I'm just at the right place to listen. And so in our first acquisition, we were smaller. We were about 20 people, and we bought an IT company to get into the managed service space because I'm in the communication world, and voice and IT are kind of merging.
Mhm.
And so the best way to get into a new market is buy somebody that's done it before and incorporate them into your business. And, you know, that was the first time we've bought a company and merging of values and merging of systems and processes. And it was a challenge. And so I started a 30-minute meeting on Thursday mornings to go through EOS and that entrepreneurial operating system and all the tools and how we do things, and it stuck. That was about 2.5 years ago. It was very boring doing the EOS stuff because it's not super exciting. But to make it fun, we started this thing called 15 Fun Facts, where we just do like an icebreaker question. My favorite food is blank because of blank, or my favorite blank is blank. These random icebreaker questions that my staff would just be on video call and answer. And then we do 15 fun facts where they could pick the questions and I would interview them in a format very similar to this. And it would be, because we have staff all over Canada, it'd be a good way for them to get to know each other. And then it morphed into I would come in and I would talk about different topics every other week once the EOS stuff was done. So I'd talk about blame and stress and anxiety. And I would just, from all the podcasts that I listened to or books that I've read, I would come up with a topic. And then this year, since January, I brought in experts like yourself so we can have a conversation like we're having in front of my staff. And the purpose of all of this aligns with what we're talking about. That's part of radical love leadership. Is if we expect, I have an expectation of myself that I become 1% better, that I'm kind to myself, that I love myself, that it's okay to fail and learn from it. And I do the same with my staff. So I try to bring in experts to try to help them get 1% better, them to look at life a little bit differently. And maybe, if you show up 1% better at work, you're going to show up 1% better at home. Same thing, vice versa. I'm a big believer of love yourself first, trust yourself, and always be curious because nobody can know everything.
Mm. Yeah, that totally syncs up with my philosophy. And I was really hearing that you build a foundation of trust with your staff, and you getting really clear on your vision, your core values, and then really once you're clear on that, you draw in the right people that have the same kind of core values, or at least that's what they're looking for. And I love that they could just reiterate that so quickly, what you stand for and what they stand for.
Values are so important. It's like the key to everything. And you know, where we work is where we spend more time at work than often than we do at home or with our other loved ones. So it should be something that you align with from a core person foundational principle. Like when we hire by our values. managed by our values. It's a core principle on who we are and what we do. And even when we go so far as attract our customers, we try to align their values to ours and say, are they a fit? If a company doesn't have a vision or values, are we aligned? Right. So, we're not about price, because it costs a lot of money to have a values driven organization and a people first organization.
Yeah, of
And so we want to attract businesses that want that.
course. Yeah, it reminds you of the Starbucks philosophy that, we don't serve coffee, we serve people.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah,
sounds
that's
like
true.
you're much the same.
Yeah. Yeah. In a technology business, but it's interesting. We're a communications business, right? We help people make business communications easier, right? Um, but that's done by people, and it's not technology, especially in this world that we're in an AI driven world where there's agents and there's, you can now have AI agents do training programs, and you just type in a bunch of stuff and they auto learn, and it can be me speaking to you and it's not even me, it's an AI person. So what's missing from that equation? Um, and it's the heart. And I haven't seen quite yet where they can build the heart into it, although who knows where our technology is going to go. Some AI chatbots and ChatGPT sometimes can be a better coach than people sometimes,
So I've
but
heard.
we're an interesting time in this world, and but I think that we're in a place where real human connection has never been needed more
Hmm.
than it is in this moment. We've never been more connected, and at the same time, never been more alone as a world and as a society, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. Everything that just keeps coming to me around my business too is that what I'm all about is connection beyond belief. And that all of our belief systems and all of this old paradigm, there are blocks. They limit us from true connection and pure connection.
Hmm.
And so I love too that you don't necessarily keep business separate from personal, like you're actually getting to know people personally. What's their favorite food? What's and curious about who they are, and not just separating it out, because I think in the old paradigm it's like, keep that separate. Keep your personal life has no business being, in the workplace. So
But yeah, I think in this world, it has every business in the workplace, because it's like who we are is what we do. Like they're all intertwined.
yeah,
And it's like, I'm not saying that I go out for dinner and lunch and holidays with all my employees, but I want everybody to connect, and I want people to have tools and techniques and things to be the best version of themselves for the people that they relate with and the people they're close with and their families. And connection is so important. It's like so many people look at life through the filter of their past and what they've had in their experience. And you wake up a certain way and it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have one of those days again. And I'm all about lean into the future you want. How do I start my day off the best? How do I visualize that every day is going to be awesome? And if it's not, because not every day is awesome, it's okay. I'm still going to be kind to myself and be the best version of myself. And I do that with a certain practice and a certain routine that I start my day with every day that gets me in that mindset to be able to handle whatever comes at me through the day.
yeah. Oh, I think that's so important, how you start your day and how you end your day. It really does change everything. And I believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So how can we compartmentalize ourselves in that way? Like,
Yeah, and it's sometimes we go, what's important, what's not important. And I lots of business owners and being an EO, you hear people that, oh, there's not enough hours in the day, or I can sleep when I'm dead, or all of these things. And then you realize that, I've experienced for myself that my health and my vitality is taking time for myself, going to the mountains, connecting to nature, having a morning routine where I meditate every day. I don't journal every day. Lots of days I journal, but I'm introspective every day. I do positive reading. And then I finish my day off with like binaural beats and positive, sleep stuff and a sleep meditation. And then, I sleep really well. So every day I wake up feeling refreshed and happy. And, my day starts staring out of the window at birds or, after my meditation. And it's great.
Mm,
It's given me the opportunity to be able to, the best way that I describe it is I used to live my life under a waterfall. Probably the first 45 years where I was always chaos in action, where I was always busy jumping around, directing people, busy, 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 and probably caused more chaos than I helped solve. And and now it's like I'm standing on the top of a mountain looking down on the waterfall, and I can pick the route that I want to get there. And and it's amazing how much calm you create, even when quick chaos and big situations happen. And I mean, a technology world, things break. When they break, there's calm knowing and confidence knowing we're going to fix it and it'll be fine. And we'll just do the right things and contact the customers and let them know we're on it and
awesome. Yeah,
we'll be okay. I'm probably
have
not
you,
going to remember this even happened in 3 weeks.
that's true. Yeah, is this really going to matter? In 3 weeks from now, 10 days from now, tomorrow, the things that
Yeah.
we occupy our minds with and worry about. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. So it sounds like do you encourage your employees also to have that kind of a ritual? I'd call it a self-love ritual. The way that you wake up in the morning and centering, right? That so I'm really seeing that you've learned how to ground and center and come from that place, which would be awesome for leadership because that's really going to help regulate your whole staff, right?
Yeah, I honestly do all the time. That's the purpose of bringing in speakers. And it's not just hearing it from me, but hearing it from other people like yourselves and the importance of these routines and leaning into gratitude and self-love and all of these things. And when you hear it enough from enough different people, then you can start to take action. So there's nothing that's mandated. I try to lead by example and bring in experts and have talks and have open conversation on something they might consider trying. But I'm all a share experience rather than tell people what to do and you should do this or you need to do that or you have to do that. It's much better if people come to things themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I can see you at the top of that waterfall, and I'm also seeing that it's kind of like you're the eye of the hurricane
Hmm.
that you've
Yeah, where
learned how
there's
to,
calm in the center.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, really how to center yourself. And yeah, I pulled off a quote from your website that I would love for you to share a little bit more about because I love it.
sure.
So, vulnerability isn't about showing up to the office and bearing our souls. It's about seeing the power of raw emotions as jet fuel for a business.
Yeah, and it's because vulnerability creates connection and emotions have power, right? So it's there's two types of emotions. Emotions that come from love or emotions that come from fear. And if we can create and harness our emotions that come from love and passion and you know um, just really that want to make things better. We really encourage it. If there's an issue or things are broken to people, we have ways of identifying it and discussing and getting to the root cause. But people leaning into that trust to be able to go, I can raise my hand when something's broken and I'm not going to be berated for it, or I'm not going to be judged for it, or I'm going to be held in a sacred space. So
Mm.
so leaning into what other people, that's one of the biggest things that I see all the time is people hold them back because they're, our hunter and gatherer days when we're in a tribe and you put your hand up or you do something and you do something wrong, you can get kicked out of the tribe and you could be eaten by lions or starve or and I think those instincts are still within us. How many people are your listeners are in a conversation, in a room, in a group of people, and they want to ask a question but they're afraid of being judged. Oh, this is a stupid question. This is a dumb question. Why would I ask that? Or everybody knows the answer to that. I'm only the one that doesn't. And we've got all this self-talk going on that stops us from putting up our hand. And it supercharges your business and your life if you can learn to trust yourself enough to put up your hand. No matter what your question is, there's probably other people that want to ask it. So
Yeah.
if you're thinking it, other people probably are. And people always look to somebody to be brave. And if you're coming from your heart, the way you answer it,
Mm.
how can you possibly go wrong? So I'm like, love yourself, trust your heart, and love yourself enough to make mistakes. Um, so many times in life, I've noticed that something will happen and it doesn't go the way we wanted it to go, whether it be in business or life. And then we beat ourselves up. I should have known better. I can't believe I did that. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. But then if you were to step back and ask yourself the question, when you were about to make the decision that went wrong, was it what you thought was the best decision in the moment? And 99 times out of 100, I think all the time it is, right? Maybe we're not listening to our intuition, and that's is also good because then we know to listen to that little voice in our head that tells us to do something. And I've got a short little story I'll share in a moment that is a good example of that for me recently. So it's just helping. I'm trying to build a culture of connection. That's where radical love leadership comes in, is giving the people the trust to feel okay to put up their hand and to not feel stupid. And it's a work in progress. It's still, human beings are complicated, and we're the hardest on ourselves. That we're so hard on ourselves. We're all people pleasers. A lot of people in the world are people pleasers, and the people that we please everybody but ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love
Right?
that. We learn to trust ourselves by trusting ourselves. And so I
Yeah.
just encourage that, be brave and practice in it and develop that safe space and that safe culture where they can practice trusting themselves.
Yeah, and all in a minute, I'll share the story, and then I want to share. I'm working on a framework because I've got, my talk that I've done is unlocking the power of real human connection,
Mm.
and I'm creating a workshop series and a framework that I can create, a workshop for help people dig into it. And I'm going to use this moment to experiment, tell you what my radical
Yes,
love
please.
model is. But first, I'm going to share a short little story. And so our house at home, the fence was getting rotten. It's like a 20-year-old fence, and there was boards that were rotten. So I was going around, and most of them I could do from my yard. And there was this one section at the back of my yard that was bordered onto a neighbor that we'd never met, even though we'd been in our house for 8 years. And the fence had completely disconnected. So I fixed the board on our side, and I was trying to reattach everything from our side, and I couldn't. So I'm like, oh, I'm just going to hop over the fence quickly because I work out of the gym and hopping a fence is no problem. And so I hop over to the other side, and I was just going to reattach it. And it was completely rotten on the bottom. The board just disintegrated, and there wasn't enough wood for me to screw it back on to reattach it so I could screw all the boards from my side. And in my head, this little voice was like, oh, you should walk around to the neighbor and just make sure that he's okay you being in the yard. And I'm like, this will only take me like 5 or 10 minutes. I'll just quickly fix it and, hop back over, and nobody's the wiser. And I'm fixing his fence. How's he going to mind? And then 2 or 3 more times, this little voice in my head said, you should walk around. And I'm lazy. And all of a sudden, the neighbor comes out and he loses his mind on me.
Whoa.
He thought that I walked right through his yard. And what are you doing? I'm going to call the police and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, so how do you react in a situation like that? And I just did it with love. And I just like, I'm sorry, you're totally right. Should not have been here. I thought it was going to take 2 minutes. I had to replace the boards. And I just let him vent. And then eventually, as I'm like, I'll leave. What do you want me to, do you want me to continue to fix it, or what do you want? And then he's like, fix it. And he ran in his house. And, and I haven't talked to him afterwards, but I can't really get mad at him because that voice in my head was saying you should go talk to him, which I should have listened to my voice because that would be my unconscious or subconscious or intuition. And I was lazy and I didn't. And so how can I get mad at him when I did? Yeah, I was in his yard. he's a doctor, whatever. He's got all sorts of stuff going on in his world, and you get this random stranger in your yard. I get it, right? So the point is that that's where I didn't listen and it happened. But even with that, I was still able to not get upset about it
Right.
because I was in the wrong. I shouldn't have been in his yard. The other neighbors I all talked to, and they're like, yeah, if you have to come in the yard, no problem. But I didn't talk to because this was a 5 foot section of fence or 10 foot section of fence, right?
Mm, I love it.
Um,
Yeah. So you should have trusted yourself.
I should have trusted
Listen to
myself.
yourself,
Yeah.
right?
And
So
I ignored myself and look what
yeah.
happened, right?
But it's
So
okay
it,
to make
it's,
mistakes because look what you got out of it, right? Just that reinforcement.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I did. I did get that message. I didn't listen to myself. And so how beautiful
Yeah. It
that
was
it
the
worked
perfect
out that way.
situation. Yeah.
Either
100%.
the right decision or the clarifying decision, right?
Yeah. Thank you for giving me opportunity to trust myself more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've created, back to the radical love topic and thought and um full disclosure, I hired a branding agency that helped me come up with Radical Love Leadership and Radical Love Leader, based on this whole long process, and I really align with it. I think I feel very strongly that it aligns with who I am.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's important for people to have a personal brand and try to figure out who they are and have alignment. The more that you're aligned with your soul and the soul and your core of your being, the better that it is to come from that place. And so the R of the radical model is recognize. So acknowledging where you disconnected in yourself or your disconnection of yourself and others, right? And then accepting it. So you have to embrace that vulnerability and emotional transparency to go, what can I work on? What can I learn? And then it goes to D, deepen. So you build empathy through shared experiences. You talk to people, you listen to podcasts, you meditate, you journal, right? Then it leads us into the I could be into it. So use your intuition, trust your body, your instincts, and your heart. Like that story I told about, it was my intuition that was telling me, and I just didn't listen to it. So trust your intuition, connect, connect, be fully present where you are. Stress and anxiety is the fear of the future, the fear, living in the past, living in the future. The more we stay in the present, it's hard to be anxious about something if you're living in the moment, right? So be fully present with your family, with your employees, with the people, and what your purpose is, what you're doing in that moment. We get to the A, which is align. So be in alignment with who you are, right? Lead with your values, not ego. Lead with your heart. Align your purpose and what you do with who you are as an individual. And I think the L is probably the most important one of them all, which is love. So, lead with radical love, compassion without condition. And, to me, I think so. I, I, I don't know what you think of the model. I kind of like the model, and then I'm going to build a little section on each letter to help people kind of, how do I recognize, how do I accept, how do I deepen, how do I use my intuition, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I'm the queen of acronyms. So I have like an acronym for everything. I love that acronym. And it does kind of remind me of like even the RAIN model, like to recognize, accept, and investigate, and then nurture, right?
Yeah,
Um, so there's just to move through anything, right?
yeah,
Any upheaval or any difficulty. And so I definitely, and of course, L being love,
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I have so many acronyms too that I'm developing, and they're handy, just
yeah, to
something to
use.
anchor into.
Yeah. And sometimes give somebody to think about, okay, how do I do that again? Or I'm feeling going back to like the rain theory, or I often come to ants. So, as human beings, we all have these thoughts that come into our head that don't serve our greatest and highest good, and they're negative and right and not super positive. So I call them ants, automatic negative thoughts. I think I heard that on a podcast. I definitely didn't invent it. I'm not sure who did, but I love it, and I use that all the time. Anytime I catch myself, I'm like, how do I reframe that? And
Mhm.
it's amazing how no matter what happens in life, there's always two different ways of looking at it, right? Or at minimum of two ways. There's usually hundreds of different ways. And it's why the human element and something that's going to be hard for AI to replace is the fact that we all have our own uniqueness, that 10 people can read the same thing and tell you 10 different things of what they see, right?
Yeah.
Which is why there's so many different thought leaders out there sharing different ways of meditation or connecting with yourself or all these things, because not everybody resonates with everything. So it's you say the same thing 10 different ways, you'll hit different audiences, right? So
Mm, amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you to develop that even more and yeah, and
yeah,
share
we'll
that with
we'll
the world.
we'll see where it gets me. It's we have a growing business, so it takes a lot of time. So this is, a bit of a side project, but I'm working very hard to align my quest to share radical love with the world, radical love leadership, with growing my own business. And how do those two worlds work together? I haven't quite figured it out totally yet, but you lead from your heart, it always leads you to the right place.
Hmm.
So I'm just trusting the universe to guide me along my path as I go.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I'm on the same mission as you. I tell people that what I do is I help people, ultimately, I help people die with no regret by learning how to live and how to love fully now. Because if you're not loving fully, you're not living fully. If you're
Yeah.
not living fully, you're probably not loving fully. There you're, holding back the truth of who you are. That authentic expression is that. And so
Yeah.
learning how to align with that, how to come from that. I'm so happy to hear that that's how you lead. Like
Well, and how do you love others if you don't love yourself first?
yeah.
Right. So it's like, one of the little hacks that I learned from, I think it was a podcast, and also another. I did Global Speakers Academy where I learned a little bit more how to speak and present in front of an audience because I'm a pretty shy guy. So how do you harness the shyness and be able to communicate a message? And one of the podcasts was, loving yourself and being as specific as putting your hand up in the mirror and, put your hand on your heart first and say, I love you, Mike, or give yourself a virtual high five. Because our brain doesn't know the difference if it's us giving a high five or somebody else. And I think that's really powerful. Like even just that heart centered, it led me to heart math and coherence. And there's so much that we don't know about this world and about ourselves that on a quest to go inward to love yourself and find out more and be curious, um, it's incredible the journey that you get. And spending time on that rather than binge watching Netflix.
Yeah, nothing is worth more than just learning how to love yourself and connect with yourself.
You do that, and there's so much more love for others.
Yeah.
It's
Leading
this
the change
weirdest
that
thing.
we wish to see, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like you have this box, and like love is like an unlimited box. But if you don't love yourself, then it's hard to love other people because then there's judgment and there's all these other things that get in the way because we judge ourselves and then we judge others through our same filters that we judge ourselves. And yeah, it's
Totally.
very interesting world we live in.
Yeah, you can always look at somebody's external relationships and know what's happening inside.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. That's great.
yeah.
We've got a couple minutes left. Any last question that you want to ask me to leave your audience with?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll kind of leave that up to you. What do you want to leave the audience with? What's your final message and how can they get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, so my website is mikeschoenberger.com. I'm not really on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, so they can connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a message. Um, I haven't done too much with my talks, but I'm available to do public speaking. And leaving with a thought is curiosity creates connection. And the best way to create curiosity is with vulnerability, right? So lead from your heart with vulnerability and love. Uh, and you're not going to be steered wrong. Love will never steer you wrong. I think if we come from our heart and sit, sit in things and love ourselves. So, if your audience wants to do one thing, put your hand on your heart, breathe into it, close your eyes, open your eyes, and say, I love you and your name in the mirror. That's one small things that you do it in the morning when you wake up and at the end of the day. Um, it's amazing how one small thing like that can transform your life. And anytime you get upset with yourself and mad, do the same thing. I think that that's one thing that if I want to leave anybody with one thing to create radical love leadership in their life and unlock their power of their human connection, it's love yourself first.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Just that simple little heart rub, hand on your heart, and yeah, and I love
And
you.
focus breath, just focus. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Love you, Mike. I love you,
breathing.
Jerry. I love you, world.
Yes, so good. Oh, thank you so much, Mike. Thank you for sharing your heart with all of us, with me. And I just truly appreciate you and everything that you stand for, everything that, and you leading the way, that willingness to lead the way, because it does take courage to do things
Yeah,
to do things differently and embrace this change that we wish to see and be it.
I think the world is changing. There's a shift. I can feel it. I'm sure you feel it too. There's a need in the world and a want in the world, and I'm aligning with humans that do that, and my business is aligning with businesses that align with that as well. So Sunco.ca, I didn't say that. www.sunco.ca is my company. If anybody wants to learn more and deal with a heart-centered company, we business to business. So happy to help you out. So appreciate the opportunity today, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be in touch. And thanks for everyone for watching. All right.
See you, everybody.
See you.